Hello again, year three. It's me again. I'm going to try and loosen up a bit today because I watched back the videos and I was a little wooden yesterday because just like you're getting used to having lessons sent in video form, it's new for the teachers to actually do them in video form as well. So hopefully I'll be a bit more chatty like I would in front of the class instead of like a robot teacher. If you remember yesterday, we looked at this starter book called The Lion and the Unicorn. If you didn't do yesterday's lesson and you want to know what happened at the very start, you might want to catch up by watching yesterday's video so you can see the picture at the start of the book and find out who this character is. But the rest of us remember, hopefully if you can, that this boy's called Lenny, and this story's set in World War II. And we saw that at the start of the story, Lenny was put on a train and sent away by his mom, called him being an evacuee to keep him safe because London was being bombed. So we're going to read a little bit more of the story today, and then we're going to also do another setting description of a different place. While I'm reading this part of the story today to you, I want you particularly listening out for openers. Hopefully you can remember from the learning in class, openers are the different ways that sentences start. So we may have some for time, we may have some for where, position openers, and we may even have some how openers, which are words that usually end in ly, which are adverbs. So when you've finished, try and think about what openers you may have heard, and you can always pause the video and write some down, and then we'll chat at the end to see if you spotted any of the ones that I thought you might have done. Okay. I'm going to do my best to make you see the pictures as well. I probably did a terrible job of that yesterday. It was so dark when at last Lenny arrived that he could not see the place. The windows were blocked out. Then all at once he was in a huge hall. It was so big that it seemed that their whole house in London could have fitted into it easily. There were no rabbits though that Lenny could see, just some tired grown-ups bustling about, and the two girls bigger than him who were called Joyce and Patsy, with a little one called Winnie. They were evacuees, and Lenny was one too. A lady wearing a great many scarves and woolly cardigans said, "I'm Lady Devas. You must be very tired. Nanny will give you some supper and show you where you are going to sleep." "We specially asked the girls," Nanny complained, looking at Lenny. "I'm afraid it's too late now, Nanny," said Lady Devas. "And he's not very big boy," she added kindly. You can see a small illustration there where she's not looking too happy at the little boy who's arrived in their very big house. Lenny woke very early while the girls were still asleep. He could hear faraway stirring noises in the house and faint echoing footsteps. But no one came. He got out of bed, pattered over to the window, and pulled the blackout curtain aside. His mouth fell open. He looked out over a jumble of roofs and chimneys, not the squat blackened kind like they had in London, but a fair ground of barley sugar shapes with grinning gargoyle water spouts winking in the sun. And beyond that, still wrapped in haze, were gardens, outhouses, meadows with great spreading trees, and a humped up hill rising behind like a cut-out paper shape. So this was the countryside. He'd never seen anything like it. The great house which Lenny had come to was very old. It had countless rooms. Lady Devas, who owned the place, lived in one part, and Nanny in another. The army of servants who had once looked after the house and garden had now shrunk down to Mrs. B, who cooked, Nellie, who helped with the cleaning and washing up, and the old gardener called Bill Penny. The evacuees had their breakfast in a kitchen as big as the synagogue Lenny went to at home. It was warm in there, but Lenny was shy and miserable. But Nellie smiled at him. There was porridge with plenty of milk, thick slices of bread, and Marge. But Mrs. B was cross when Lenny would not eat the bacon that she gave him. "That's good food wasted. I'll not have that," she scolded. "We don't eat bacon in our family," said Lenny in a low voice. Everyone stopped eating and stared at him. Joyce's eyes were as round and hard as marbles. Even Winnie stopped whistling. Then he felt his ears turning pink. But he was stubborn. He thought of Mum and Dad, and he still wouldn't eat the bacon. In the end, Mrs. B gave in and told the children to take their dirty plates into the scullery and get out from under her feet. Wondering, can you remember anything else I've said on the page? And your year 2 learning? And can you remember maybe why Nanny won't eat the bacon? Yeah, it's because he's Jewish, because he said he would go to the synagogue. If you go to a synagogue, the Jewish people, part of their traditions, don't eat pig. The girls went off giggling, trailing Winnie after them. Lenny did not know what he was supposed to do, so he wandered off into the yard, through a big gate, and into the gardens. He walked along the paths with wide overgrown flower beds, and peeped into the long greenhouses. He found a goldfish pond like the one in the park at home, but it was choked with weeds and the fish had gone. There was a summer house half hidden in the ivy beyond, set in a high stone wall and a wooden door. It was not the door to somebody's house. Lenny knew that. It was a garden door. He remembered hearing somewhere about a secret garden that was locked up for years and years and years, and nobody ever went in. Cautiously, he pushed the door, and it creaked open. This is what he saw. Inside was a little garden, like a room without a roof. It had criss-cross mossy paths, lined with knee-high hedges and stone seats. In the centre was a great rose bush with trailers which swept to the ground. It was very quiet in here. Then a bird flew up with a great clatter of wings, and Lenny saw something on the far side of the garden, high up on a pedestal by the wall. At first he thought it was something alive and watching him, but it was too still to be alive. He went over to it. It was a unicorn, carved in stone, just like the one on his badge. It did not look fierce, strong perhaps, and very beautiful, with its curved neck and long mane. Prancing there alone in the shadow of the wall, it seemed as lonely as he was. Then he felt a huge relief to have found this place. It made him feel more like himself again, and he made up his mind to come back there whenever he could. On Monday morning, the evacuees started at the village school. The children were not friendly. They looked at Lenny blankly, as though he wasn't there. When the bell went for morning prayers, Lenny had to stay alone in the classroom, sitting at a desk. In the playground, Joyce, Patsy and Winnie went off together. Lenny was not included in the boys' football game, and he stood by the wall until it was time to go home, clutching Dad's badge in his pocket and pretending that he didn't care. I wonder how you feel, if that's how your first day at a new school was. We know how Lenny feels in the story, but how would you feel? Right. Did you listen out for lots of different openers? Hopefully you did. You can have a little chat if you didn't with the adults who may be helping you with your learning today. And there were lots of different types. Did you spot any for saying when things happen in the story? Well, one of the examples I got as a time opener was after that. Sorry, at first, it said. So to order things, we use words like at first, then, next, after, in a while, so that it helps carry the story along and you know that something's moved on. There were definitely some position openers, which is what we're going to focus on today in our setting description. The sentence I found, and maybe you found, was beyond. Beyond means further than something, and it linked two sentences together. It said beyond that, so it's talking about something's further. You could say, for example, in Chawton, if you're looking at our playground, beyond the fence was the footpath that goes all the way to Spa. Beyond means further than something. And finally, there weren't very many, but almost at the end, it was a good how he did something. He didn't just say, Lenny pushed the door. He said, cautiously he pushed the door. I wonder why you may have been cautious when you're opening the door. Would you cautiously open your front door of your own house? Probably not, because you know what's in there. Did he know what was in the garden? No, so he was a little unsure whether he should be going in, and he wasn't sure what was going to be inside when he opened it. So he did it cautiously. So we're going to concentrate on position openers. And to do that, we're going to look at that last picture, which was Lenny in the playground. So I'm just going to share that picture with you on the screen so that you can see it in the video. Okay. There's a lot going on in that busy playground, isn't there? What can you see? Pause the video for a minute and talk about the picture and what you can see happening in it with an adult. Okay, hopefully you can see lots of different things happening. There's a girl skipping, there's boys playing football. Do you know what the boys are doing down here, crouched? Maybe it's not a game you've ever played, but this story set in wartime, and they didn't have Nintendo Switches. They would have had little glass balls of glass called marbles. These boys are playing marbles. Girls having a chat here. Some more skipping with several. Looks like a conversation going on. He doesn't look particularly happy, does he? He's got his hands on his hips. Well, outside the wall, there's a man pushing a cart, might be a farmer of some sort, and he's got his dog with him. So there's lots going on. This person over here, who do you think that is? That's Lenny, not happy because no one's letting him join in. So we could talk about the picture by just naming the things that are in it, but there are lots of, could just say Lenny wasn't allowed to play with his friends, or nobody would let Lenny join in. But a position opener means we could say, leaning against the wall, Lenny stood with his hands in his pockets, sad because the children wouldn't let him play, and we'd start with a position opener. We could just talk about the girl in the middle. There was a girl skipping, but that wouldn't be a very long or interesting sentence. And so to bring our story right into life, where is the girl who's skipping? Yeah, she's in the middle of the playground. And so I'm going to use this particular sentence in the middle of the playground, and I'm going to build it up a little bit at a time so you can see how you can make your writing sound better when you're trying to describe these sentences, not writing necessarily the first short sentence that comes into your head. So I could say, there was a girl skipping. Let's improve it and up level it. In the middle of the playground, there was a girl skipping. Could we add anything else to talk about? She's skipping in a group, or she's skipping by herself? As she's by herself, this could be a sentence talking about a group of children, but she's lone. Doesn't mean she's lonely. Lone just means on your own. So in the middle of the playground, a lone girl was skipping. We used some adjectives yesterday. Could you describe anything about the girl? It could be that she's got a purple jacket, or that she's got long pigtails. So, you know, I'm going to add that sentence. I'm going to add some description in as well. So I've got all my ideas so far. In the middle of the playground, a lone girl with two bouncing pigtails was skipping. That sounds better than just saying there was a girl skipping in the playground. And there's one more thing that I could add, and we did have one of these in the story. We had the word cautiously. Is she skipping cautiously? No, she's not, because you don't have to be careful as you're skipping in the middle of a playground. But how is she doing it? She could be doing it quickly. She looks like she's going for it the way that rope's bringing. So do you know what? I'm going to go with the word energetically, which shows that she's really trying her best and putting a lot of energy into what she's doing. So I'm going to finally squeeze in an adverb, and then I think this sentence is well and truly full of good stuff. Let's try. So in the middle of the playground, a lone girl with two bouncing pigtails was skipping energetically. Full stop. Don't forget your full stops at the end of the sentences, guys. I would like you to have a go at describing the things that are happening in this picture, particularly trying to use different position openers. So we've got up against the wall, sitting on the bench, hiding in the corner, in the middle, around the edge, over the wall. We could even describe the man outside. So I'm going to add as well a list of openers that you may find useful. And just as a challenge for those, the openers is the main objective for the lesson. If you write a sentence description and you've tried to use a different opener with every sentence, I'll be really pleased with your writing, as will your own teachers when they can look at it when you upload it, hopefully later today. If you fancy a challenge, I'll also upload a list of some adverbs, and you could try and maybe with some of your sentences squeeze an adverb that says how people are doing some of the things they're doing. That's a bit trickier, but it might be worth some of you giving some adverb work a try. I think I've covered what the lesson is. So you're going to write a second description using this picture and using the word banks to help you. Remembering your own personal targets. So if you're someone who writes really good ideas but forgets your full stops, just try and get them in. If you're somebody who maybe misses out little words, reread what you've put carefully to make sure that what you've written completely makes sense, and maybe check your spellings carefully for careless errors. Okay, I look forward to seeing some of these sent in. Thank you, and I'll see you again tomorrow.